Previously on the Sisters Under Two Skies at school, the label had begun to settle. Eliana is quiet. Eliana needs help, needs confidence. Eliana takes time. Children noticed too. Not cruelly, just naturally. They moved faster than her, spoke before her, chose each other first. And Eliana adjusted. She stopped trying to enter quickly, started waiting longer, because waiting felt safer than being wrong. The Spirit of God speaking in Isaiah 43:5-8. Fear not, for I am with thee. I will bring thy seed from the east, and gather thee from the west. I will say to the north, give up, and to the south, keep not back. Bring my sons from far, and my daughters from the ends of the earth, even every one that is called by my name. For I have created him for my glory. I have formed him. Yea, I have made him. Bring forth the blind people that have eyes, and the deaf that have ears. The village where everything becomes clear, leaving everything behind. It happened quickly, too quickly for Eliana to understand. One day the house still held its familiar silence. The next boxes, voices, movement. Her father spoke in short, practical sentences. We're starting fresh. It'll be better for us. Martha said very little, only watched. Eliana stood in the doorway, holding something small in her hands. Not a toy, not something valuable, just something familiar, because everything else was about to disappear. Arrival, a different world. The village was far from everything Eliana had known. The air felt heavier, warmer, full of sounds that never fully quieted, weaned through dry grass. Distant voices, footsteps on earth instead of floors. The house they moved into was small, simple, not empty, but lacking. There were no soft spaces, no corners that felt safe, only function, only survival. Her father moved through the space like a man with something to prove. This is where we rebuild, he said. But Eliana didn't feel like anything was being rebuilt. It felt like something had been left behind. The welcome that wasn't one thing. The moment they arrived, the village noticed. Not slowly, not quietly, immediately. It started with one person, then two, then five, and then suddenly everyone knew. They came from where? Abroad, to here. A group gathered at a distance, not too close, just far enough to stare without pretending not to. They came from abroad. Why? To hear why here. A group gathered at a distance, not too close, just far enough to stare without pretending not to. One man leaned toward another. Maybe they got lost. Another shook his head. No, nobody gets lost this far. A woman nearby crossed her arms, squinting. They chose this place of poverty. Are they mad? She said slowly. Silence. Then all at once murmuring. Confused. Amused. Slightly impressed. Mostly confused. Meanwhile, the warm ones. Not everyone stayed back. A few villagers approached directly. Smiles first, then offerings. A woman carried a small basket of fruit. Another brought vegetables wrapped in cloth. Welcome, one said warmly. You'll get used to it. Another added half encouragement, half warning. They placed the gifts into Eliana's hands. She blinked, not because of the weight, but because of the gesture. She wasn't used to receiving things, so she held them carefully, like she wasn't sure what came next. The children. And then the children arrived. Not all at once, one step forward first, then another, and then suddenly a small circle formed around Eliana. They didn't speak, they just stared. Open curiosity. No filters. One child whispered, not quietly enough. She looks like she knows something. Another said, "Her skin looks so beautiful and smooth. I want to touch it." Eliana was not used to attention, so she didn't know what to do with everything or everyone. Another leaned closer. "She's too quiet." A third just nodded. "Definitely from somewhere else." Eliana stood still, not shrinking, not reacting, just observing them, the same way she observed everything. She was used to kids ignoring her, that these kids were different. They seemed friendly, welcoming, and much kinder than the ones that used to live in her neighborhood, and the ones at her school. Paul trying to stand tall. Eliana's father stood straighter than usual. Too straight. He greeted people, shook hands, nodded, spoke with confidence that didn't fully reach his eyes. "Yes, we're starting fresh. Yes, this is a good place. No place like home." The villagers nodded back, some respectfully, some skeptically, because they had seen this before, hope arriving without understanding. Martha, watching everything. Martha said almost nothing, but her eyes moved constantly, measuring, observing, calculating. Who was friendly? Who was doubtful? Who would be useful? She smiled when needed, perfectly timed, perfectly placed, but it never stayed long. Eliana in the middle of it all, and in the center of all this stood Eliana, holding fruit she didn't expect, surrounded by people she didn't know, listening to words meant for her, but not spoken to her. She didn't smile, but she didn't look afraid either. She just watched, taking it all in. Because even then, before everything that would follow, she was already learning. As the crowd slowly broke apart, one of the children waved at her. A quick, uncertain gesture. Eliana paused. Then very slightly she lifted her hand back. Not fully, not confidently, but enough. A new routine. The next morning came early. Too early. Eliana didn't know what time it was. Only that the sky wasn't ready yet, but the day had already started. Eliana woke before sunrise. Not because she chose to, but because Martha's voice came early. "Get up." No softness, no patience, just instruction. A container was placed in her hands. "You'll fetch water." Eliana didn't ask how far, didn't ask how. She just nodded, because she had already learned something important. Questions didn't make things easier. The walk begins, and so does the confusion. Eliana stepped outside and immediately realized something important. Everyone else already knew what they were doing. Children passed her confidently, balancing pitchers like it was nothing, talking, laughing. One boy jogged past her, with a pitch on his head. Eliana stopped. On his head? She looked down at hers, then back at him. He didn't even hold it. "How?" she whispered. No answer. Because he was already gone. The walk to the well. The path to the well was long. Not impossibly far, but far enough for a child. The ground was uneven, dust rising with each step. Other people passed by sometimes, carrying their own containers, talking, living. Eliana walked quietly among them. No one knew her, and she didn't know how to enter their world. So she stayed at the edge. As always. Attempt number 1. The head method. Eliana paused, looked around, then carefully lifted the pitcher. Toward her head. It tilted immediately. She froze, adjusted, tilted again. A girl nearby stopped walking, watched. Another child joined her. Now there were 2, then 3. A small audience had formed. Eliana tried again. The pitcher wobbled, then slipped. She caught it just before it fell. The children burst into laughter. Not mean, but honest. "You're new," one of them said, smiling. Eliana lowered the container slowly. Yes, she replied, dead serious, which made them laugh even more. Attempt number 2. The carry it like a normal person method. Eliana chose a different strategy. She held the container in her arms, like something fragile, which technically it wasn't. The walk continued. Step by step, the children kept glancing at her, whispering, "She carries it like a baby," one said. Another nodded. "Maybe it's very important water." More laughter. Eliana didn't respond, but her grip tightened slightly. At the well, new level of confusion, they arrived. A group had already gathered. Rope, bucket, movement. Everything happened quickly, efficiently, like a system everyone understood except her. Eliana stepped forward slowly. Watch someone lower the bucket. Pull it up. Pour, repeat. Simple. She could do that. Attempt number 3. The rope situation. Eliana grabbed the rope, lowered the bucket. So far, so good. Then she tried to pull it up. It didn't move. She pulled harder. Nothing. A boy nearby watched. "You have to use your weight," he said. Eliana paused. "My... what?" He demonstrated, leaning back slightly, using his body. Eliana copied him. Pulled. The bucket moved. Just a little. She pulled again, harder this time. The rope jerked. Water splashed up onto her. Silence. Then laughter. Louder this time. Even the adults smiled. The shift, when it stops being funny. Eliana stood there wet, holding the rope, breathing slightly heavier. The laughter continued, but something changed. Not in them, in her. The humor didn't land the same anymore, because now she understood something. This wasn't just unfamiliar. It was necessary, and she didn't know how to do it yet. The older woman steps in. From the edge of the well, the older woman approached. Same one from before. She didn't laugh. She didn't rush either. She simply stepped beside Eliana. "Like this," she said gently. She placed her hands over Eliana's, adjusted her grip, shifted her stance slightly. "Don't fight it," she added. "Work with it." Eliana tried again. This time, the rope moved. Steady, controlled. The bucket rose. Not perfectly, but successfully. A different kind of silence. The laughter faded. Not completely, but enough. Now they were watching differently. Not just amused, but curious. Because she hadn't given up. The walk back, now it's real. The container was filled. Heavier now. Much heavier. Eliana lifted it, not to her head. Not perfectly balanced, but secure. She began the walk back. Slower this time. More focused. The children passed her again, still faster. Still laughing. But one of them said, "You'll learn." And this time it didn't sound like a joke. Closing moment. As Eliana walked, water shifted inside the pitcher. Each step required adjustment, balance, attention. And for the first time, she understood. This wasn't just a task. It was something she would have to learn again and again and again. The weight of small things. The first time she lifted the filled container, she wasn't ready for the weight. Her arms trembled slightly. Her steps slowed, but she didn't stop, because she knew stopping would only delay what came after. So she kept walking, step by step, learning a new kind of endurance. At home, less and less. Food became uncertain. Not always absent, but never guaranteed. Sometimes there was enough. Sometimes there wasn't. And when there wasn't, Eliana learned to stay quiet about it. Hunger became something she carried silently. Like everything else. Her father noticed less now. Or perhaps he chose not to notice. He worked. He moved. He avoided stillness. Because stillness made things clearer. And clarity was uncomfortable. Martha, no more masks. In the village, something changed. Martha no longer needed to pretend as much. There were no visitors, no outside eyes, no one to perform for. Her voice became more direct, more controlled. You need to be stronger. You're too slow. You should have done better. The words came daily. Not loud, not explosive, but constant. And constant things shape deeply. The gossip circle. Across the way, a group of women had formed their own circle. Voices lowered, but not enough. From abroad. And they came here. Maybe they lost everything. Or maybe they think this is easy. Laughter. Let them stay 1 week, one said. They will understand quickly. More laughter. Not cruel, but not kind either. Just real. Eliana changes again. At first, Eliana tried to keep up. Tried to move faster. Tried to anticipate what was needed. But the environment demanded more than she could give. So something else began to happen. She became quieter than before. Not just in speech, but in presence. She learned to move without drawing attention. To finish tasks without being noticed. To exist without expectation. And in doing so, she became almost invisible. The village children. Sometimes she saw other children. Laughing, running, playing. They carried water too. Did chores. Lived simply. But they had something she didn't. Connection. They spoke to each other. Called each other by name. Eliana stayed at a distance. Not rejected directly, but unsure how to enter. So she watched. Always watching. Night, the heaviest time. At night, everything slowed. The village quieted. And in that quiet, Eliana felt everything more clearly. The exhaustion. The hunger. The confusion. But also something else. A question. Small, but persistent. Why is my life like this, and hers isn't? She didn't fully understand it yet. But the question had begun. And once a question begins, it doesn't easily go away. The father's silence. There were moments brief, almost invisible, when her father looked at her differently. Not with anger. Not even with frustration. But with something closer to hesitation. As if he almost saw something. Almost questioned something. But then he would turn away. Return to his routine. Because facing it would require action. And action would require change. The well at dusk. The sun was setting. Eliana stood at the well again. The sky painted in deep oranges and fading gold. Other children had already left. She lifted the pitcher slowly. This time, steadier. Not because it was lighter, but because she had learned to carry it. And as she began the walk back, there was no one beside her. Only the sound of her steps. And the quiet strength she didn't yet realize she was building. Hello everyone. Thank you for watching episode 3 of The Sisters Under Two Skies. Although life can be a challenge for some of you, yet there is still hope for those who put their faith in the Lord. As a child of God, you are never alone no matter what life throws at you. Or wherever you may find yourself. God is watching, working, preparing and positioning you for greatness. So don't lose hope. God will see you through your situation, and you will glorify Him.